Hi, and welcome to this episode of The Secret Sauce of Property Managers from around the world. Today I have the pleasure to welcome Rebecca from Pillow and Coffee in Los Angeles. And I was lucky to meet during one of the sessions of the STR Legends community, which I highly recommend you check out. And Rebecca agreed to do this interview with me. Thanks so much for being here, Rebecca.
Yeah, of course.
Great. So let's no small talk on this podcast. So why don't you tell us briefly about what you were doing before property management and about your current position now? What do you do for Pillow and Coffee?
Sure. So before creating the company Pillow and Coffee, I was actually in the student housing space. So I had created multiple property management companies in student housing. I did that for years, at least 7-10 years, something like that. I don't remember now. But and then after building that, I kind of went into the space of doing purpose-built remodels specifically for student housing. So I have a bit of a construction background as well. So yeah. And then as far as what I'm doing now, so with Pillow and Coffee, I do a lot of the building of the systems that we use. I do a lot of the owner relations and acquisitions of new properties. I also do a lot of the hiring and training in for our company.
Fabulous. You're busy, basically. And how many people in the company?
So we currently have a total of 8 people. Some are part-time, some are full-time. We work with virtual assistants, and we have a very lean team. We don't have many on-the-ground people here in Los Angeles. We actually work with, besides our cleaning crew, we have one on-the-ground person that handles a lot of the kind of all the things that kind of need to be running back and forth, or just to serve our customers, really. So we're a very lean team.
Well done. That's really good. And how many properties then for such a lean team?
So pre-COVID, we had over 100 properties. Now during COVID, we have over 50 properties. So we had to make the decision to scale back at that time to do what was best for our company and best for our customers and best for our team, really. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Right. Okay. So scaling is a good keyword. Scaling back. How you basically let some owners go, or some owners went by themselves, or you had some master leases. What happened? Tell me the.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our model was majority of master leases. We did have some management contracts, but majority were master leases. So we were able to give our notice, like our proper notice to the owners, explain the situation, and be able to get out of our contracts, basically. So we did that pretty quickly once we heard the news, and once we kind of seen our bookings start to get canceled and things like that. We acted really fast. So since we're a smaller company, we're able to kind of pivot very quickly to be able to save our company. So that was really, like, it was a tough decision, but it was a necessary decision, I would say.
And okay, so let's stay on the scaling. So now we scale back. What's the optic for the future? Are you planning to scale again up?
Yeah, so far for us, we see ourselves, yes, scaling back up. I would say not right now in this climate. It's very uncertain for us to be building our business in that way right now. But I do see in maybe a year, 2 years, something like that. Once we see some indicators of it kind of stabilizing in the industry, then we would work with, we would scale up more so in the management model instead of the master lease model. I think the master lease model was a bit risky. It was great when times were great, but when times are not, it was very difficult. So we had to scale back that way. But scaling up, I would work with developers of small boutique buildings to rebuild our brand. I wouldn't really change what our brand is about. I would just build it more with developers and work directly with them instead of, I wouldn't necessarily work with individual owners. And that's just for our business in an urban marketplace in Los Angeles.
Got you. So the brand, what does the brand stand for?
So we have a collection of houses, small houses and boutique apartments. And we have things from having a whole unit that you could rent out to also co-living. So our main thing is that we're in neighborhoods that are very walkable, where you can experience the city. So you can walk to restaurants, you can walk to entertainment. And for us, that was really important because when we travel, we like to have that convenience of when we're in the city and whatnot. So our city would also be a very urban brand as well.
And co-living is dead at the moment. I imagine.
Pardon?
Co-living is dead at the moment, or is still going?
Actually, it's not. It surprised me as well because I was like, well, you know, this is so for our co-living situation. How we set up our units is that, let's say it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom unit, like townhome style. So everybody would have their own private bathroom and private bedroom, and then they share the common area of the kitchen and living room and outdoor space. But they do have their private bedroom and bathroom, so they do have their own space that way. So actually it was doing very well in this market. Very surprising. I don't understand why necessarily. It might be price point. So I would think it's price point more than anything else because our co-living properties were a bit less expensive compared to when you get your whole unit, a whole unit apartment or house or something like that.
Yeah, clearly. And so, but these short term, you rented them short term or mid term, those co-living spaces?
So at first, like our brand was a basically short-term rental brand. However, during the pandemic and currently, we've needed to switch to midterm stays, longer term stays in general. And for us, we also had to find different avenues to find those renters. Again, we are more in a survival mode. I wouldn't necessarily keep the brand to be longer term stays or midterm stays. I do really enjoy the shorter term market customer. But yeah, we've needed to pivot, and the midterm stay people and the longer term stay people have really helped save our business as well. So yeah, we've definitely done some pivots, but necessary as well. And I believe a lot of other operators are doing similar things as well to keep their business alive.
And tell me about the complications of this pivot. What did because you weren't ready as such, right? I expect there were new types of contracts. Where do you advertise? How do you price? Tell me about that. Tell me about the learning curve. Yeah.
There are tons of learning curves here. So what we were saying as far as finding that customer. So the channels we were using before, so for us, we were using Airbnb, Booking.com, and VRBO very heavily before, and not as much. Like we had a lot of repeat customers, but we weren't necessarily directing them as much. Now, and those are the bigger brands, right? Some of the biggest brands in the world. Now we've switched to more of a local local advertising. So, for example, we would use Furnished Finder, or we would use Facebook to get referrals and things like that. So we kind of had to reach a little bit deeper to sustain our company. And yes, pricing is totally different. And I would say pricing was different not only because it's longer term stays. That would have been easy if it was just mid and longer term stays. It's very easy to price in comparison to short term. It was during a pandemic that was the issue of okay, now we're dealing with different situations where people may be stuck in the city, people maybe have lost their jobs. how do you really figure out who is okay to rent to and who is not? And it is a different dynamic because you have to approach your guest is different. Your customer is now different. They have different needs. So you serve them differently as well. So there were a lot of learning curves that were very quick. Now, keep in mind, I did come from real estate where it was all longer term. However, it's still different. So our systems changed. I mean, things that worked for like more of the automation that we had for our short-term rentals didn't apply anymore. So we had to change that as well. It was definitely a learning curve. We've gotten through it. But without the help of our team and, acting quickly, I do believe that we would have been in a much worse position than we are now.
Well done for all of this and to keep the team, especially, that's really important, right? And so tell me about technology. You quickly talked about the tech. Tell me more. What's the tech stack? What was the tech stack and what's the tech stack now?
Sure. So we had we relied on our property management systems. And this is before, I mean, we still do now, but we have our property management systems, which also have ways to be a channel manager as well. And then we have our pricing tool, our pricing softwares. And I would say our security systems have been kind of the bulk of the systems that we've used. We also created some of our own, but really the ones that we created on our own were more of like Excel sheets that were programmed, as well as like working with Zapier to make different connections between our programs so that we can pull and use the data in a way that we need to see it. And then we need to kind of allocate our data as well. So through this, now working with like longer term stays and things like that, we've also established more different contracts like we were discussing before, and different ways to communicate with our guests. So our guests within the short-term rental community was okay talking through the platforms and things like that. But now as we've kind of switched over to midterm, longer term stays, it's more of on our texting software and things like that. Or talking to people, kind of having more of a personal touch. So yeah.
Very good, very good. And so you said to me last time when we met, you said, I'm doing midterm now, but this is not something I want to keep on doing. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
You're not going to put part of your inventory on midterm and keep some short term. And I mean, what are your plans in terms of that in the future?
So for us, I believe in having a like very strict focus in essence, right? So as the pandemic hit, we had to refocus and pivot. So our business is really built for, and we really enjoy serving the shorter term renter. Whereas the longer term and midterm stays, they're great. They're wonderful people, of course. And we enjoy serving them in that sense. However, it makes it very hard as a business to serve both short-term and midterm people under the same umbrella. At least we've found it a little bit difficult because there's different channels to reach out to them for. And in essence, it is a different business. So for us, this is something that we're doing to survive the pandemic and keep all of our people and work it through that way. But it's something that when we say that we're gonna go back to short-term rentals, that's we don't see that until maybe a year. Maybe it's a year and a half. It's not more of an immediate thing. Like I do see this getting impacted for a while. It's not something that's going to go away right when there's a shot that you can have or something like that. It's something that's longer lasting. But I do see us reverting back to our core, which is our shorter term stays.
Wonderful. That's great. Although a year sounds like a long time, doesn't it, for us to get back on track? Okay, well, that's wonderful. So if you met a property manager today and you would give them your best piece of advice when a crisis happens, what would be that advice?
I would say the best piece of advice would be to kind of build your brand and not grow too fast. So I guess that's two different things. And here I'll kind of break that down. So not growing too fast. So grow as fast as your systems can handle, your systems and your people can handle. Because if you don't do that and you do grow too fast, you're going to put a lot of extra stress on your team, extra stress on you financially. There's a lot of things that can play into that. So I would say don't grow too fast, because that can also hurt your customers, and you don't want that. And then as far as building your brand, I would say as you're choosing your products, so your whether it be in apartments or houses or whatnot, build your brand, because that for us has helped us. Again, there's a lot of factors as to why we're still in business. But one of them is our brand. So we've been able to have repeat guests, and we've been able to some of our properties we were able to pivot to different markets, for example, the midterm stays and things like that. And more importantly, we were able to get more direct bookings. So when the OTAs were kind of in the air of how they were handling the pandemic as well, we had a lot of people staying with us that had stayed with us before, that were able to reach out to us directly. So that part of your brand is really important, to have that consistency of what a guest can expect when they're staying at one of your properties. And, even as a manager where you have a lot of different properties, you still get to choose who you work with. So, that you still get to do. And you still get to choose how you run your business and what can go into those properties to make it more consistent, so that the guest experience is the same, whether they're staying in one property or another. So that's what I would say.
Love it, love it. Very, very good. We should be very proud. And so I just wanted to finish because I could speak to you all day, but we're coming to the end of the show, but I would like to share some of the love for the STR Legend community. Since when are you part of this community, and what did you get out of it?
Oh, there's so much. So I was part of the beginning we've traveled to Puerto Rico together, to Colombia together. We're currently in a virtual mastermind now. And it's like a family. Like, this group is where larger operators have come together, and it's a very open community. So some communities, people don't share as much as how they operate their systems, how they find their customers or things like that. But this community is different. It's thinking in a bigger picture, and being able to actually do deals together. Some of the things that we've been able to accomplish with Pillow and Coffee is to have, as we were purchasing, so we pivoted to starting to purchase our own buildings. And as we were doing that, we were able to get advice from other legends that are part of the community, part of the family, where we literally we're in the middle of deals and got this advice to be able to close the deal and be able to finance it and things like that. So it's a huge community. And it's such a powerful community. We had speakers come in, and you've seen the kind of way that we share and the questions that are asked, and how you can learn from each other and just connect on and off channel and just have these candid conversations. So it's and granted, this is when we were traveling together, but when you travel together with somebody and experience a country with them in a different way, it's a connection that it's a different kind of bond, I guess. It's more than just like a Facebook group or anything like that, which those are great too. I just feel those don't go as deep as some of the conversations and connections that we have through the community. So
amazing, yeah. I'm just new to the legends, and I gotta say I was mind blown by the questions and this feel of, you know, we're together in this, we're holding together, and the openness, like you said, yeah. So big shout out to the community, strlegends.com, I believe, if you want to reach out to them.
yes.
So thank you so much, Rebecca. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks for your time, and all the very, very, very best to you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.